Hello and welcome to White Hare Investigations. I'm your host, Anna Rucco. A few strange things at Butcher Creek. Butcher Creek is a small village named after the creek, which runs southeast of the Elysian Pool and Roanoke Ridge across the Kamasa River. The village is composed of a number of small cabins near the riverbank. The first mission in story mode where you encounter Butcher Creek is That's Murphy's Country. If Arthur and Charles decide to canoe some of the way to Beaver Hollow, upon arriving in Butcher Creek, Arthur remarks that the locals don't seem very friendly, since they receive several warnings that the area is Murphy country. Butcher Creek and Murphy connection. During the mission That's Murfree country, as you approach Butcher Creek, you receive several warnings that it is Murfree country. You also have to clear out the Murfree brood at the new campsite. So this means that the residents at Butcher Creek are in some way related to the Murfree brood. We know that the Murfree brood kills travelers, and from the state of their camps and caves that they are known to behead their victims and eat their entrails, meaning they are cannibals. As you look around Butcher Creek, there is evidence of this same practice happening here. They also share the same physical deformities as the residents of Butcher Creek. There are clues in Butcher Creek that they also partake in cannibalism, leading one to believe they are part of the Murfree brood also. The Murfree brood have a number of similarities to Levi Boone Helm. Levi Boone Helm was an American mountain man, Old West gunfighter, and serial killer known as the Kentucky Cannibal. Helm gained his nickname for his opportunistic and unrepentant proclivity for consuming human flesh, usually in survival situations, though instances of killing people for their meat unprovoked were documented. He once remarked, "Many's the poor devil I've killed at one time or another, and the time has been that I've been obliged to feed on some of them." It is interesting to note that in 1862, after heavily drinking, Helm gunned down an unarmed man named Dutch Fred in a saloon and fled. They also draw parallels with the story of Alexander Sweeney Bean, a Scottishman who was said to have been the leader of a 45-member clan in Scotland in the 16th century. The Bean clan, lacking the inclination for regular labor, they thrived by laying careful ambushes at night to rob and murder individuals or small groups. The clan brought the bodies back to their cave where the corpses were dismembered and eaten. They pickled the leftovers in barrels. Now this particular legend has been the base for several modern works. Wes Craven used it for The Hills Have Eyes. In Attack on Titan, the tale of a cannibalistic clan is told to two captured titans named Shwani and Bean. In the Image comic series Hack Slash, the main character is eventually revealed to be a descendant of Shwani Bean. The novel Off Season by Jack Ketchum was inspired by the Shwani Bean tale. Butcher Creek always reminded me of The Hills Have Eyes. Now I know why. At the house covered in animal skins and animal bones covering the ground, a pile of skulls is under the porch. This is where you can see them feeding the pigs at times. Since the Murfree brood is known for beheading their victims, it seems they have hidden a few heads here. The barn has a few interesting things that just don't seem to fit. Behind the hay bales are some shackles and blood on the ground. On the bales themselves is a pile of stacked clothes. The table has a hammer and saw. It appears they've been hanging up more than just animals here. Butcher Creek has several residents, although only a few are named specifically. Obadiah Hinton, Lemuel, Shaman, Jerry Ann, Esther, the Banjo Man, and Cain. You meet most of these residents during the mission The Wisdom of the Elders, in which you investigate the curse of Butcher Creek and find out the town is being lead and arsenic poison from the nearby mine. You also have to fend off the demons when they attack, which turns out to be rabid dogs. So is the curse real, or just sickness from the mine? Obadiah Hinton is one of the village elders. Cain can first be seen running over the suspension bridge of Butcher Creek while being chased by two of the demons. Lemuel is a villager from Butcher Creek and is first encountered sitting under a railroad track. You can ask him if he's okay, but he will deliriously exclaim, "It's in me," and mentions Butcher Creek. When you take him to the village, Obadiah Hinton expresses his relief that Lemuel is safe. Hinton says that Lemuel is a victim of darkness. Obadiah then takes Lemuel into the house, and the latter is not seen again. The shaman was hired by Roanoke Fuel Company to pose as a spiritualist and manipulate the residents of Butcher Creek into leaving. He is trying to make them believe that their village is cursed. He tries to dress and act as a Native American, but it is highly likely that the shaman is not Native at all. For one, Native American tribes do not have shamans, they have medicine men. Secondly, his skin and eyes are too light for someone of Native American ancestry, which means he is probably white. You can find the shaman running in the village shouting after the final cutscene. Crazy woman lost in the woods for 2 days. The player can encounter her after completing the Wisdom of the Elders. When you set up camp in Roanoke Ridge, a dirty-looking woman shows up. She tells you she's very cold and asks if she can sit by the fire. If you accept, she'll say that her friends Esther and Jerry Ann are part of why she's so cold, eating all the chitterlings and lending out her warm breeches, amongst other things. She tells you she drank some moonshine to keep warm and woke up on a riverbank, totally lost. She'll then tell you she's from Butcher Creek, and that they have to cope with a demon there that's taking control of the bodies and minds of the villagers. Right after, she thinks you look at her funny and then goes on that you have the same look her uncle always has, running away in fear immediately afterwards. The Banjo Man is the most notable resident of Butcher Creek. He has some form of disease, most likely Magdalene's disease. Magdalene's disease is a rare metabolic condition characterized by symmetric, non-encapsulated fat deposits on the patient's body, usually around the neck, but in some cases also around shoulders, the upper trunk, chest, and limbs. He can usually be seen playing songs on his banjo on the porch of a house in the southwest of the settlement. The Banjo Man character is most likely inspired by the man in this rare photo. The only information I could find on this man was his name was George, and he lived and died in eastern Pennsylvania. The Pig Mask. The Pig Mask is just one of several unique masks in RDR2. It is found in Butcher Creek at the butcher shed hanging on a pole. The Pig Mask has made a number of appearances in movies, most notable Motel Hell, and my favorite, the entire Saw series. I wonder if this is a nod to Jigsaw. The Butcher Creek Pentacle. Now I know for a long time this symbol under the house in Butcher Creek has been called a pentagram, so why am I calling it a pinnacle? The pinnacle is an encircled pentagram. A pentagram is an ancient spiritual symbol shaped as a 5-pointed star with one point aligned upwards. It is considered to be representative of the 5 elements from which man is made, namely fire, air, water, earth, and spirit. Often the terms pinnacle and pentagram are used interchangeably, but there is a slight difference between the two. Some people believe that a pentagram is not circled, while a pinnacle has a star enclosed by a circle. Still others say that a pentagram is a diagram or drawing of the star and is referred to as a pinnacle only when it takes the form of a physical object. So for this reason I chose to call it a pinnacle and not a pentagram. The pinnacle shows up between 4 a.m. and 5 a.m. every morning. Many theories exist about its possible use and meaning. It is considered a supernatural event. I wonder if it is connected to the supernatural beings that live in the world of Red Dead. Example, the vampire in St. Denis, the werewolf, aka the Wolfman, Satan in Devil's Cave, the witch, aka the Hermit Woman with the 3 attack dogs. I wonder if those are familiars. Or the King of the Forest. Those are only a few. 5, in fact, that may be related. The pinnacle, however, does reinforce the assertion that Butcher Creek can indeed be cursed and not merely poisoned from the neighboring mine. The strange light at Butcher Creek. When standing at the pinnacle and looking into the settlement, one window gives off a strange red light. The house beside the butchering location is the one that does this. However, the closer you get to the window, the dimmer the red glow is until it finally is gone completely when you're next to the window. Could this be the source of the curse, or is it just a graphics glitch in the lighting? One thing I found interesting about the red glow in this house is that this is the same house they take Lemuel into in the story mode mission. Is there a connection? since Samuel said it's in me and Obadiah said he had the darkness in him. The Butcher Creek's outhouses. Butcher Creek's outhouses are also home to an interesting mystery. There are 5 outhouses at Butcher Creek which are numbered 1 through 5 in what appears to be a random order, but the numbering is by no means random. The marks are on the right side wall as you enter each outhouse. If you draw a line from the outhouse marked as 1 and follow them in sequence, it makes an almost perfect pentagram. However, the 3rd outhouse appears to be in the wrong location. Now if you move the 3rd outhouse connection to connect to the Pentacle instead, the entire pentagram takes shape, with it now having 5 distinct points. By doing so, the Pentacle also becomes the northern-oriented point of the pentagram. My question is, how important is this minor change? Based on the clues and information gathered, it appears the residents of Butcher Creek are part of the Murfree brood. All of them are cannibals and work together in Butcher Creek to conceal this fact as much as possible. They seem to have some kind of affiliation with darker forces. Maybe this is the darkness they speak of. There does seem to be an abundance of goats in the area. The axe at the Pentacle House seems to suggest this is a sacrificing area. So are the cannibals of Butcher Creek worshipping the dark forces? Does this village hold even more secrets? Is this something we should investigate more?